Hello, Erongo Talk viewers. This is Adam Hartman. We are here currently at Dunes Mall, Walvis Bay, where we will be bringing you some weather and tides. The rivers are actually coming to the seas. We're looking at all our big rivers, the Swakop, the Swakop, the Omaruru, and the GIPF. So we're looking forward to that. We'll be bringing you an interview with GIPF executives who visited the region, especially Swakop and Walvis Bay, to inspect some of their major unlisted investments. Erongo saw approximately over $500 million worth of investment from GIPF over the years, which is great news for the local economy. And then we'll be bringing you some news. So stay tuned. All right, so now for the news. The big news is that the rivers are coming to the ocean again. So we are looking forward to that, and look out on our social media pages for nice photos and videos. But besides that, we are looking at some national and international news with local relevance. GIPF calls for better governance of the oceans, which is right next to us here, the Atlantic Ocean. Namibia is in the final stage of developing a sustainable blue economy policy to effectively protect, maintain and restore biodiversity, productivity, resilience and value to Namibia's marine and aquatic ecosystems. We are also developing green hydrogen as a means to limit the impact of climate change and its consequences on rising sea levels and global warming, President GIPF told world leaders in his speech at the first edition of the One Ocean Summit in Brest, France last week. He urged world leaders to stop talking about threats to the ocean in an abstract way or to offer one-dimensional solutions that could hinder the implementation of the recommendations from climate change experts. The initiatives resulting from this summit must respond to the impacts of the climate change crisis. Through equitable and better governance of the oceans, they must lead to a path of sustainable fishing, the combating of plastic pollution and coastal erosion, and the protection of the ocean is not optional, but vital for the survival of our global village. We should recommit to act now to protect the vital resource of our ocean for our continued livelihoods, he said. Next story, Namibians cautious about their financial situation. Aren't we always cautious about our financial situations? A significant number of Namibians faced many financial adversities in 2021, forcing them to take a hard look at their financial position and the plans they had in place to handle the challenges placed before them due to the COVID-19. These findings were revealed in Old Mutual's Savings and Investment Monitor survey in the last quarter of 2021, carried out in a bid to better understand the savings behavior and financial attitude of working Namibians, with specific reference to the ongoing impact of COVID-19. Based on the results, it emerged out of the sample, 58% feared the possibility of losing their job or income, while 68% were concerned about their job security. Therefore, it is understandable why 33% of the participants had taken on an additional job or business or done freelance work on the side in addition to their permanent or regular job to supplement their income. Equally, the results showed that a quarter of those surveyed lived with their parents, while 80% said that they had children who are dependent on them. Similarly, a quarter of the participants highlighted that since the emergence of the pandemic, they had started financially supporting more people. Finally, we have the competition watchdog fining Greg's Motorspares, a Windhoek-based company with branches countrywide, has agreed to pay the Namibian Competition Commission a total of 1.25 million in penalties and costs for anti-competitive behavior. The Commission investigated Greg's Motorspares and found it entered into exclusive agreements which affords preferential rights, sole distribution rights, waiving of excess fees and rebates. As such, the company contravened Section 23 of the Competition Act. Greggs Motor Spares admitted that its conduct constituted an unintended contravention of the Act. Hence, both parties agreed on 20 January to settle the investigation and High Court proceedings in a full and final settlement. That's the news from our side. Thank you very much.
No, this is one of our earlier investment. We are at the home of Lucky Star, and I'm sure most of us here have consumed Lucky Star one way or the other. And it's one of the investments that was made in the 80s, and we are happy, in the 90s rather, and we are happy to be still involved. They produce pill charts, the Kent pill charts. It has been quite a very tenacious effort by Etosha Fisheries Management, because, as you know, pill charts is not readily available anymore in the Namibian waters. But through innovative approaches, they have been able to bring in pill charts from elsewhere. And they have also ventured into canning other fish types, in this case horse mackerel. And it is normal practice whenever we are in a region that the trustees familiarize themselves with investments in which GIPF is holding a stake. And in this case, we were in Swakop for our strategic planning during the past 3 days or so. And we are going to end this with a practical visitation of a number of projects. We'll visit others also. Thank you.
Just to add to what the CEO is saying, a portion of our investments are in what is called unlisted investments. This is one of our unlisted investments. The reason why we select a few impact projects to invest in is because we want to invest in what is called the real economy. There's a direct benefit by all sectors of the economy through employment, and of course there's a lot of research that takes place to domesticate some of the services that we offer as a country. So this gives us an opportunity to familiarize ourselves with the assets that we have, to engage the management team that looks after the assets, so that we are assured that the risks that we take when we make such investments are mitigated. I think we are sitting at 5% of the total portfolio of our assets that we've channeled to unlisted investments. Unlisted investments are by nature risky investments, because they are not listed on any stock market, so they don't have a track record of performance. You don't have a track record that you can use to assess their performance. So they are by nature risky, but we've put in measures to understand the risks involved in some of the investments, but some of the risks you cannot foresee, and one of them is COVID. None of us would have foreseen that there would be COVID that would affect the market. So each sector of the market was affected differently, but there was an effort to try and cushion ourselves against the risk, allow for the investments to still continue during the time when activity was poor, So we are hoping that with the lifting of the several lockdowns, the markets are getting opened up, and whatever risks we experience, we hope that they are going to be mitigated. We expect the returns that we set ourselves to get in most of the risks. With respect to Etosha Fishing Company, where you've got a specific question there, the CEO alluded to the fact that there is a moratorium in place on fishing pilchards. It's something, again, beyond our control, one of the risks we experienced. But the company took the initiative to instead import so that operations should continue running. So that's how we mitigated the risk with respect to pilchards. We hope that it is lifted. If it's lifted, then we are going to fish in our own waters and rather than importing. What this did is jobs were maintained, the infrastructure is still there, but it also introduced innovation because we needed to continue operating. And the key innovation we experienced with this facility is we now have canned, what is the other fish?
Horse mackerel.
Horse mackerel. We now have canned horse mackerel, something that would have had to happen at some point in future, but it happened almost immediately.
What we experienced during the pandemic time, those businesses or firms that were just about to set up, some of them experienced delays in the construction due to various factors. Those that were importing equipment from outside the country, they could not do so on time as scheduled. And the other thing was the equipment. When you purchase it from a given supplier, they would bring normally technicians for installation and commissioning of the plant. And the restrictions, human movement restrictions, they did not help us. As a result, we have some delays resulting from those efforts. But we are a patient investor, long-term investor, is to make sure that we stay the course we have started. We can't abandon this, and we have to see them through. And I'm sure that the sun will come out soon. And generally with unlisted investments, I see quite a lot of stories with in the media and elsewhere that, it's like planting seed. When you throw the seed in the ground, you don't see it for a while, and then it gives you a shoot. And then now you have to nurture that shoot to become a plant and grows the fruit, then you harvest. It's the same with unlisted investment. You put it in, then you have what they call the GIPF. It will come out again. It's when you start now reaping the fruit in the harvest and enjoying the yield thereof. Of course, when you have a lot of investments, there are those that yield well, there are those that yield middle, there are those who may not do it due to one or the other factors. Like now, it's a very high risk period because of the pandemic experience. The markets have been depressed one way or the other, and I was talking about supplies even getting it tough to bring in. But generally what we look at is the trend generally. It has been an upward trend, and we have enjoyed good results overall. And we have indicated just in a recent past, during the height of the pandemic, we had the book growth of over 26%. That is the growth of the value of GIPF grew by more than 26%. Not many businesses in Namibia could do that. And during this period now, we are at around 19%. And so generally we are doing pretty well. So we are fairly pleased with the investments that we have made.
Quentin Liebenberg.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Fine, and you?
Well, what can I say? What an awesome morning to be able to experience all this rain and being honored to have a river come down in how many years? We're blessed. Very
Indeed,
awesome.
indeed.
Very
Tell me,
awesome.
you're the owner of Tiger Reef, and you've been struggling with erosion and the sea taking back what you've built for a long time. How do you feel about this?
Well, this has always been a very positive thing with Tiger Reef. Tiger Reef's boundary line actually lies 15 to 20 meters into the sea, and over the years I've tried to keep my position, and as part of my marketing strategy to try and stay where I am, so it's myself against the sea. And in the meantime I've come up with an awesome concept where we pile the poles deep into the ground and onto the bedrock called Tiger Reef, and then I've elevated the whole Tiger Reef on an existing platform by 2.5 meters. But saying that, the sand is still being eroding, and this is just awesome that we're getting some sand back again.
Yeah, so you're hoping Tiger Reef will be recharged your earth.
So at least we'll have a beach again where the people and the girls can lie and tan in front of Tiger Reef.
Thanks a million, Quentin. Eh?
Big pleasure, and we're very blessed. Thank you.
So, da geht das richtig. Wenn das erstmal so tief durchbricht da. Walvis Bay. Atlantik. Das ist nicht Whitewater Rafting, das ist Shitwater Rafting hier.
To another episode of Rowan's Reflections. I want to speak to you about leading in crises, leading through disruption. You know, we've all faced this COVID-19 virus, which has sort of made us all rethink how we approach things, what we're going to do going forward. But it's not just now, it's in any crisis. Throughout the ages, we've had crises. And if you look back at them, what happens with all the crises is that we go through three phases in a crisis. The first one is that we are blissfully moving along, everything is fine. No, it's not a problem, the way we were this time last year. Oblivious to anything that could possibly happen. And then we end up in the crisis. So everything changes, everything gets turned upside down, and suddenly we go into a panic mode. But like with any crisis before and with anything that's happened in life, there also comes an end. The question is, how are you going to come out the other end? If we look currently, I don't think that it's really been as bad. Probably economically, the closest that it's come to what's happening at the moment was maybe during the Great Depression in the 1930s. I don't think even the 2007-2008 economic crash had the same sort of effect that it's having now, especially on business and on economics and on companies and teams. You know, businesses are being driven to their knees. Businesses are going bankrupt simply because they are being put into a position where they can't operate as normal. I was interviewed a couple of weeks back on a live broadcast called Business Unusual. You know, we're so used to business as usual. It's going to be business unusual. You know, we're sitting in a situation where things are going to be different. It's not going to be the same. So what was is not going to be because of what's happening now, because of whatever crisis you're in. If you end up in a situation where you have to lay off staff, it's not the same after you finish. While you are in that situation, busy laying off staff, whether it is a crisis like we have at the moment, whether it is laying off staff, whether it is war, whether it is some other sort of disruption, you need to adapt and you need to make changes. And this is where your role as a leader comes in. it's very critical that you don't start the panic. Everybody's panicking. Everybody is fearful. Nobody knows what's happening. Yeah, as humans, we are created, firstly, that we are resistant to radical change. We love things the way they are. We don't want things to be turned upside down and get disrupted. We like carrying on the way we are. We have our little patterns, we have our structures, and we like operating like that. So something comes along that threatens that, and suddenly we're up in arms. So your team is going to be reacting with panic and fear and anxiety to this disruption, whatever the disruption is. There's going to be more disruptions in the future. It's going to happen. There's going to be more viruses. There's going to be other disruptions, other crises that are going to come along that are going to test your leadership skills. So you need to be the beacon, as I've explained in previous videos. What you need to do is not react to the current situation. You need to take a longer term view. Look beyond the now. Look beyond what you see, the obvious, and look at what could possibly come. Now is the time to start having a vision. Now is the time to start thinking creatively. But you need to do that as the leader, and you need to calm your team down. You need to be able to get your team to rally around you and to buy into this vision of yours.
In Wednesday's weather report, for Walvis Bay, the sun will set 19 minutes to 8 and will rise 8 minutes to 7 on Thursday. Walvis Bay will experience a maximum of 25 degrees Celsius with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 24 degrees Celsius predicted for Thursday. A south-southwesterly wind will prevail with a speed of 15 kilometers per hour. For Swakop moon, the sun will set 19 minutes to 8 and will rise 8 minutes to 7 on Thursday. Swakop moon will experience a maximum of 23 degrees Celsius with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 23 degrees Celsius predicted for Thursday. A southwest wind will prevail with a speed of 13 kilometers per hour. For Henties Bay, the sun will set 19 minutes to 8 and will rise 7 minutes to 7 on Thursday. Henties Bay will experience a maximum of 23 degrees Celsius with a minimum of 20 and a maximum of 23 degrees Celsius predicted for Thursday. A south wind will prevail with a speed of 13 kilometers per hour. For Arandis, the sun will set 21 minutes to 8 and will rise 10 minutes to 7 on Thursday. Arandis will experience a maximum of 30 degrees Celsius with a minimum of 20 and a maximum of 32 degrees Celsius predicted for Thursday. A south-southwesterly wind will prevail with a speed of 11 kilometers per hour. For Usakos, the sun will set 24 minutes to 8 and will rise 12 minutes to 7 on Thursday. Usakos will experience a maximum of 34 degrees Celsius with a minimum of 20 and a maximum of 36 degrees Celsius predicted for Thursday. An east-northeasterly wind will prevail with a speed of 7 kilometers per hour. For Karibab, the sun will set 25 minutes to 8 and will rise 13 minutes to 7 on Thursday. Karibab will experience a maximum of 33 degrees Celsius with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 34 degrees Celsius predicted for Thursday. An east wind will prevail with a speed of 9 kilometers per hour. And lastly, for Omaruru, the sun will set 26 minutes to 8 and will rise 13 minutes to 7 on Thursday. Omaruru will experience a maximum of 32 degrees Celsius with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 33 degrees Celsius predicted for Thursday. An east wind will prevail with a speed of 9 kilometers per hour. And that was it for your weather report.
So we've come to the end of another great episode, and thank you for joining us. If you want to follow our news, you can do so on our erongo.com.now website. We also try and update you on our news events on our Facebook pages, so have a look at our Erongo page. And then again, if you want to share news tips with us, you can either do so by calling us on 0811 7000 40, or you can send it to newstips@erongo.com.na. You can also visit our online TV channel at oneup2.com to check our shows. So wishing you a wonderful day. This is me, Adam Hartman, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.